What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz, Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. We got a special episode of NXT coming up next week, so that's what we're going to talk about. Don't have Jake with me, flying solo again, so you guys are going to have to put up with that. Before I get into NXT talk, I do want to hit a few little news notes that we've got about TNA. TNA just had Genesis this past weekend. Really hard to find accurate attendance numbers for them. Just, not trying to play the attendance game, but TNA is growing. Would have loved to know the numbers. The closest I can find is WrestleTix. Shout out to WrestleTix, who have them at an estimated 4,032 tickets for Genesis, which by comparison to other things is not the most gigantic in the world, but on the trajectory that TNA is on is absolutely fantastic. And since we're going to talk about NXT shortly, going to Center Stage next week, Center Stage, which has hosted TNA quite a bit, I find it kind of ironic, the news that was released today that the next live Impact, we know we're getting an Impact live tomorrow night, may or may not come up to talk about it, don't know, depends how the day goes, depends on if anything really earth-shattering happens, but the next live TNA Impact is going to be February 20th. Cool enough in and of itself that they're getting some live episodes out there, but with NXT in their backyard at Center Stage in Atlanta, very interesting to hear that TNA will be broadcasting from Full Sail. We haven't watched wrestling in Full Sail, or at least televised wrestling on Full Sail, since NXT before COVID. So this will be very interesting. They're doing a live episode on February 20th, and then on the 21st they're recording some next week type stuff. So shout out to them for a really decent, and if you follow certain people on Twitter, you can see the overhead crowd shots of the crowd there at Genesis. So shout out to them for that. Obviously the show was really cool. Jake and I have talked about it on other pods, but also them going to Full Sail is quite interesting. But we will now turn our attention from TNA back to NXT, and they are going back out on the road again themselves. Interesting to say, TNA, it's interesting when they go live. NXT, it's interesting when they're not in the Performance Center. So both I don't want to say both companies, NXT is part of WWE, Rah, but both brands are doing pretty cool shit this year, and we're only in January. They're going to Center Stage in Atlanta next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. They've got a loaded card. We're going to talk about it just a little bit. Gotta go in there with measured expectations. It's not a pay-per-view. It's not a PLE. It's not even really an elevated episode of NXT other than the fact that they're in a different place. So not everything is going to set the world on fire, but it's pretty much going to set the world on fire. Big showcase for the NXT women's division as usual. I thought we might get some TNA interaction. We don't have any on the docket, so to speak. Doesn't mean we can't get some interference here and there. Now, one thing worth noting with the live Impact that's happening literally tomorrow night, and the NXT Tag Team Championship match that's happening on Impact between Fraxium and the Rascals, if something huge happens there, and by something huge I mean somebody from TNA holding the NXT titles, if the Rascals win the tag titles in 2 nights on Impact Live, then I gotta believe there's going to be some fallout from that on this Center Stage NXT episode. So I'll put that in there as sort of a hyphen. If any other interactions happen on the live Impact, if Cora Jade decides to get in Masha Slamovich's face again, if Ashanti Adonis decides to do another open challenge, if we have the NXT NA liaison Ariana Grace, they're doing something, we will have something to talk about. There will be some sort of fallout from that, I'm sure. Also, shout out to Ariana Grace and Stax, who recently got engaged like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That's awesome news. I just like hearing about happy people being happy. Let's talk about the first match on this card. It's Cedric Alexander versus Ethan Page. Now, to my own discredit, I forgot why Cedric Alexander was off TV. I thought he was just off TV for a while. I forgot that he got himself injured after what Ethan Page did to Javon Evans. Javon Evans, with his mouth wired shut, which is a nice touch, wanted to get his hands on Ethan Page. Ava told him, basically, you are the furthest thing from cleared. Cedric Alexander is going to fight in his friend's stead, even though his hand is also still wrapped. Ethan Page is going to do something evil to Cedric Alexander, isn't he? Cedric Alexander is awesome. I wish they had him in a better spot. I wish... it's hard when you have a tag team or a potential tag team like Cedric and Javon, and they are, as a team, having a rivalry with one person, because you can't really go anywhere with that. It's not going to get them the tag titles, and they're not going to go towards singles glory if they are trying to be a tag team. So... it's kind of flawed on its face. Sorry if I'm coughing in your ear, guys. Those of you using headphones, please accept my apology. It's going to be a good match. Cedric's going to give him a good match. Ethan Page doesn't need to be carried to a good match to begin with. I mean, there's no way Ethan Page isn't winning this, right? It'll be good. I hope it's the opener. Let's get it out of the way, so to speak. I am interested in where it goes, but it's not nearly the most interesting thing on this card, so let's get it out of the way nice and quickly. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory showed up on NXT to announce that they will be in Atlanta next week to do a live episode of the Grayson Waller Effect with the winner of the world title match. And did anybody think Eddie Thorpe was going to defeat Obafemi? So they're going to be interviewing Obafemi next week, but they were kind of squaring up to him from a distance at the end of this week's NXT. So is it going to be an impromptu match between Obafemi and A-Town Down Under? He could just kill both of them, because why would you push a prominent tag team? I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be, you know, the typical Grayson Waller, we're going to, you know, do some jabs, and Obafemi's going to be like, watch your mouth, and they're going to get some more jabs in, and he's going to say, I'm telling you to watch your mouth. Third time, they're going to get the crap kicked out of them. It might be an impromptu match on the night. It might be a match set up for the following week when they're back in the Performance Center. It's funny because as a handicap match, it'll just be a slaughter for Obafemi. If you do a one-on-one match, hopefully it's with Grayson Waller, because a lot of people have this sort of really weird undue hate towards Austin Theory. Yes, he was Vince McMahon's chosen one, but let me let you in on a little secret here. I'm going to lean in really close to the microphone. That was a storyline. Yes, it was a storyline. So all kinds of really weird disengagement happens if it's Austin Theory in the match. But on the other side as well, Grayson Waller is the Jeff Hardy of that group, the Shawn Michaels of that group. Grayson Waller versus Obafemi could be a cool David versus Goliath, even though David's the heel match. Somewhere down the line, it could happen. It'll be absolutely fine. They're not doing anything with A-Town Down Under on the main roster, which is super unfortunate, but that is the bonus of NXT at the moment. Fallon Henley versus my girl Shotzi for the Women's North American Championship is gonna be a lot of fun. I will admit, how they got here was weird. I thought that the way that they got here with Shotzi pinning Shotzi pinning Fallon, I can speak, I swear, in the 6-person tag to get it in her own mind that she should be the number one contender after Stephanie Vacour named herself the actual number one contender in a Fatal 4-Way match on the same night, by the way, and then them having a match and Stephanie getting screwed over and Shotzi getting the win. I'm kind of torn, because you guys know I'm really biased towards Shotzi. I like Shotzi a lot, and I wish she was in a much more elevated spot. Just happy to see her back from injury, quite frankly. But she really is there to be the, I don't know, I guess the detour from eventually Stephanie Vacour picking up that title. We've already got Julia with the main title. We're going to have Stephanie Vacour with the mid-card title. And I do believe Zarya and Sol Ruca are sticking together as a tag team. So look to them to pick up a set of tag titles. Would it be the WWE tag titles? Would it be the Knockouts titles? We can talk about that on another day. So I think all three of the new female signings in NXT are going to be holding gold before too long. And Sol Ruca, who's not necessarily new, does get to go along for the ride, because Zarya and Sol Ruca is a really weird team that I like to watch. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Not to mention Gigi and Tatum, who, under Shotzi's tutelage, could also win those tag team titles, or the Knockouts tag team titles as well. Anybody but Bianca and Naomi at this point, and I'm not even going to shy away from saying that. Shotzi's not going to win this. Shotzi's going to put on a hell of a fun match. She's going to run into a 1-3 advantage. She's going to get fucked out of this match after the match gets to be as good as it gets to be. She's going to get triple team. Stephanie Vacour is going to come down and make the save. She's going to get a title shot set for some future date, probably Vengeance Day. Now, that being said, I should say, I want to know what you guys think down in the box below. Vengeance Day. NXT Vengeance Day is an interesting topic of conversation in the sense that we thought there were going to be 2 pay-per-views that day. It was going to be AEW and their Grand Slam Australia show. Obviously, it's going to be in the morning because it's in Australia, and then we're going to get Vengeance Day at night. But a whole lot of things happened on the other side of the coin where AEW's Grand Slam is not a pay-per-view, and it's not being broadcast live, and it's not even being broadcast in its typical spot because it's going to be pushed out of the way by basketball. So that Saturday night is going to be a really interesting time to watch because certain other people are going to pretend that their show is a big deal. The spoilers are going to be out about 10 hours in advance, and Vengeance Day is going to be better. Over in AEW, they're unifying the ROH and AEW titles, apparently, for reasons. Even though they're very, very definitely 2 separate companies with one shared roster, which is weird. Anyways, that being the case, we're going to be building towards Vengeance Day. I think we're getting Fallon Henley versus Stephanie Vacour at Vengeance Day. I don't know what that means for Julia at Vengeance Day. I don't know what that means for Zarya and Sol Ruca at Vengeance Day just yet. Hopefully, the WWE Women's Tag Titles get maintained in the mix because they're not getting very much time and very much play on the main roster, which is a bad thing. WWE needs to fix that. Speaking of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships, we've got the Meta Girls, which is Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, Miss Jackson if you're nasty, taking on DEI, Naomi and Rat Tail, who have those titles because, of course, Bianca Belair has to have a belt. And people complain about Rhea Ripley. They're not going to win. Bianca and Naomi are going to come in and trample over a very, very cool upcoming new team because that's productive. If I put that aside, and if I put the bummer that is aside, physically it'll be a great match. Bianca, as much as I don't like her, is a physical specimen. Naomi shows up with bright gear, I guess, and the Meta Girls show out every time they get an opportunity and a big stage and a big platform to perform on. It's going to be really, really good, and then it's going to be really, really, really sad. Didn't mention, sorry, skipped this one, before I got into all the ladies' action. Trick Williams is taking on Wes Lee. Very, very interesting conflict here. Wes Lee, who's kind of on his own, they've resisted the urge to reinsert him back into the Rascals situation, which is good, because Fraxium versus the Rascals should not have any interference, and it should be the historical event that it is. Another story for another day. But he's got Tyson DuPont and Tyreek Igwe. Sorry, I'm not pronouncing that correctly. I apologize. But he's the little guy with big friends, popping off all over the locker room. He got into a fight with Dion Lennox after getting bitch slapped by Trick Williams. He came out with the bruise on his face that was definitely a real bruise on his definitely real face. Had a really cool match with Dion. I like Dion Lennox. I hope they give him more time to flesh out exactly what he is, other than the guy that wears glasses sometimes, which is weird. We don't need to make any Superman references for a bunch of reasons. But that match was really cool. He chucked Wes Lee around like an empty tracksuit, to borrow an Adam Nicholas expression. And then, obviously, his guys got involved. And Wes Lee, even though he's the heel, even though he's the little guy, he got on the mic and called out Trick Williams and said, hey, how about you and me next week in Atlanta? Which is interesting because they made that match official, Trick Williams and Wes Lee, for next week, but also Trick Williams stared down Obafemi at the end of the night. So where is his attention going to be? Is it going to, oh my god, is it going to be Obafemi and Trick Williams taking on A-Town Down Under? And they're going to die. It's really interesting because they built up Trick to be the sort of the hood ornament of NXT for a little while when he was the champion. They haven't really done a really good job of deciding what Trick Williams is when he's not the champion. So that's an interesting thing. Wesley not only sort of treading water with his heel character, but also putting this little group together. They're both at different places where they need to establish who they are, so why not do it together in a match? Very, very, very early days, Hardy's, Edge, and Christian with the ladder matches and such is the first example that comes to mind. I don't think Trick gets a win, at least not a clean one. Wesley getting his buddies in there and putting a beat down on him would be fine. Trick Williams bitch slapping the taste out of all three of their mouths, also fine. I would love to see Wesley hop over to NXT again, not to fight with the rest of the Rascals, but maybe to get involved in the X Division title scene over there once the belt is off of Moose, because I don't think, as much as I want to see Moose fight a lot of people, Wesley isn't one of them. I don't really know. Ace Austin is still in the hunt for that X Division Championship, you gotta believe, so Wesley versus Ace Austin as an exhibition would be a lot of fun, something that we could really sink our teeth into. And the main event, yeah, they brought Bayley in. Oh my god, they're using Bayley to boost ratings. Yes, they're using a WWE superstar on a WWE show to boost WWE's ratings. Please get over it and cope. It's Bayley and Julia versus Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. Now, again, not the combination I would have predicted a couple of weeks ago, because originally when they showed Masha Slamovich in the crowd, and then when they had their little interaction at Genesis, by the way, have I mentioned Genesis had a really good crowd, and congratulations to them. I thought, if anything, because Roxanne Perez has these issues with Bayley and Cora has these issues with Masha Slamovich, I thought you were either going to get Bayley and Masha, or Masha was going to come in with her own tag team partner, Killer Kelly. Looping Julia into the mix as somebody that has great respect for Bayley, who just took the title off of Roxanne Perez. Cora Jade is there just as the sidekick. It's a really interesting match. A few people have said it, and I'll agree, Cora Jade is going to have to kind of raise her game up to consider the other three people she's in the ring with. I say that respectfully, of course. I mean, the babyfaces are winning this. The babyfaces are winning this, and it's going to go in one of two directions. You're going to go on to Vengeance Day, and you're going to have a one-on-one match between Bayley and Roxanne before she goes to the main roster, or Roxanne's going to go to the main roster, and you're going to get a respectful marquee headliner main event of Julia herself taking on Bayley in a face versus face, you know, I want to test myself against one of the NXT legends type of match. All of this is good. All of this is really cool. We talk a lot about the fact that Asuka's coming back, Charlotte's coming back, Becky Lynch is coming back. There's other people that I'm not remembering. I mean, eventually Alexa Bliss is coming back, eventually Carmella's coming back, but we don't talk about the logjam that's going to create in on the main roster scene. So Bayley coming down and doing a quick stint in NXT like Becky did before her, I don't think she necessarily has to have an NXT title run. I don't think she will. I think they've picked Julia and they're running with her. But Bayley coming down, maybe challenging Fallon Henley. If Fallon Henley manages to hold on to her title past Stephanie Vacour, maybe Stephanie Vacour versus Bayley. Maybe Delta versus Bayley. Maybe Sol Ruka versus Bayley. If there's about to be a logjam on the main roster, utilize somebody with so much history in NXT as Bayley. I think it's no end of good. The fact that NXT and the main roster have become like 10 times more fluid since Triple H took over. And by the way, to the idiot on Twitter that asked, why do we put Triple H on such a pedestal, and then got upset when I said, hey, here's a couple of the reasons why we put Triple H on a pedestal. This is why we put Triple H on a pedestal. I'm just saying. WWE's already the number one company. NXT's debatably the best thing in WWE. TNA is very, very quickly going to become the number 2 company, and the rest of you are going to... What's that guy's name again? Oh yeah, cope. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality chick. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I am tagging out. Bye, guys.